in a very firm tone. We have the Managing Director of Moreland Development here with us today, Mr. Carlton Maxwell. And of course, we also have Mr. Jason Baker, who will be joining me on this presentation. And it's going to be a verbal presentation. There's nothing on the screen. I just want you to just listen to us. And it is unfortunate that many people who really want to take their hearts home have had that heart broken. The stories, the horror stories run deep, but it's getting better through partnerships like this, and the process has become very, very seamless as it relates to trust, building trust. And we want to just emphasize that if you ask the right questions in the right forum, you will get the right answers. Information should be free to every single soul, especially for those who want to make a bold move. Now, many times you ask, where are the developers in all of these forums? And that is why we are here today, Moreland Development. And to just give a background into Moreland Development, what we are all about and the products that we put to market, we have Mr. Carlton Maxwell, Managing Director. I want him to open his mic and his video, and he will tell you about Moreland Development. And then we'll have Jason, who have been taking products to market for several years, and just making sure that trust is there for you, the diasporans who really want to take your heart home. Mr. Carlton Maxwell.
I thank you very much, Corey, and want to say all protocol observed. I want to thank everyone for inviting us to participate in this program. We are indeed happy to be a part of this webinar, and Moreland Development has in the past partnered with VM and others to look at to see how well we can meet the needs of the diaspora. And to say that to date, just a little background on Moreland for those who don't know. Moreland Development is located, we are based in Manchester. We are predominantly a company that was formed just about 20 years ago. We are in our 20th year, and we were formed out of employees of the bauxite company who decided back then that Alpart which was Alpart at the time, having so much land that we could join our resources together to build and develop properties. Having done so, we have done Moreland's Estate, Moreland's Manor, Palmbrook Estate. Now we're doing White House Beach Club, and it's about to start a property in Trelawney called Newport. Now, what we do is that we try to offer properties that are eco-friendly and secured. So generally, security and in the environment becomes our pivotal pillar of what we promote within our development. One of the things that we want to do is that we have noted with interest that a lot of the persons who have bought from us in these development are persons from the diaspora, some of whom have asked us to go one step further, as to build their houses for them. And we have engaged them in very fruitful discussion and have built a number of houses for persons who are from the diaspora. We have gained some amount of success, some amount of knowledge, and a lot of trust in the process. And that has spurred us in our development in Westmoreland called White House Beach Club, where we are developing 110 beach villas overlooking the Caribbean Sea. And what we have done is that primarily our target group has been, one of our main target groups has been Jamaican in the diaspora, and they are loving the product, and they are trusting in our ability to deliver the product. And as a result of that, we are having a fantastic relationship that is taking place between ourselves and persons from the diaspora. But what we do know is that there are some persons who don't necessarily want to be in our gated community. That's some, and they do have land in Jamaica already. One of the things that we are targeting now is how we can assist persons. We can leverage the trust factor. We can leverage the deliverables. We can leverage the satisfaction persons get from working with us to get to the point where we can actually build their home for them and properties that they own in Jamaica. We always say to persons, we tend to confine or development into what we call developed schemes. So one of the things, if a person comes to us to develop their home, we try to make sure it is in a location where it is to ensure that your needs are satisfied when the house is completed and you have moved into it. The other program that we are promoting now is that I'm promoting persons who have land who would love to develop it, where we can say to them, we will take that process, the naked land for you, and make a product out of it.
Corey, have we lost that? You're muted, Corey.
Jason, are you with us? Seems that we have lost Mr. Max. So what we was alluding to was the fact that we're actually developing on naked land, which is the build on your own land project. Right. So what we're actually doing is building out communities. So a number of individuals can come together from the diaspora. If you, for example, I'm going to use one area, and forgive me, I'm Dr. Kevin Brown, if I go south, Brixton. So for example, there are a lot of changes in Brixton, and you have grown up in Brixton, and quite a number of you want to say, you know what, we're going to take Brixton to Jamaica. And you pull together, we will be able to build that community of Brixton for you on that naked land. So, you know, having that discussion, we can tailor your needs of having that community setting relocated from the United Kingdom to Jamaica. So hopefully that we still have Jason who can complete the other part of the presentation. What Mr. Maxwell was onto was something that was really, really intended for diasporans to really consider taking their heart home into a community itself. Jason, you with us? Are you with us, Jason?
If
Mr. Max is back.
Mr. Maxwell seems to be back. Mr. Maxwell, are you back? Is he?
Hello? Yes.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Go ahead, Mr. Maxwell. You can finish your presentation.
Yes, I'm back. Unfortunately, Jason is having some trouble and he's not reconnected. So I'm just continuing what Laura was saying, is that the idea is that sometimes what we find is persons coming back to Jamaica and living in community with people they cannot associate with, they cannot relate to, and they come back to move and live with families that are not, that have changed, their dynamics have changed, the dynamics of what they left and the dynamics of what they have developed over the period. There's a change and there's a shift. So we are saying by pooling resources and developing this community, what will happen is a matter of a community that have like-minded persons in it, persons who can relate, who can associate, and who can integrate in a way that is positive. And just following up on the presentation that BM made, is ensuring that we locate these communities in proximity to the necessary amenities. So that medical services, community services, shopping centers, things like those are within a particular proximity. Things like the internet and electricity and water are critical infrastructure that you want to ensure that persons are within proximity of those. But one of the most important things that we want to bear in mind in concluding the discussion is that we pay very special attention to the environment. If the development that we do must adhere to the improvement of Jamaica as a country. So when we get into to do something for you, we look at how the infrastructure and what we're doing and what we're going to be building on the property will improve Jamaica and improve the lives of the citizens and persons who are coming to Jamaica. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Max. And just in closing, we have the cautionary pillars. and there are 3 cautionary pillars. And, if you look at these words, you may wonder why we're cautioning individuals. But oftentimes people put these words together in pursuit of their dream, and they have gotten their heart broken because of it. The word cheap, the word fast, and the word good. When it comes to property development and trying to take your heart home, and Mr. Max, you coined it very well. And if you probably permit me to start it off, that a lot of times people want to make that quick move into Jamaica and would want something under the guise of affordability. So can you build me something very fast? Please, I don't have much money. But remember the dynamics that if it is offered cheap and fast, it is oftentimes not very good. And, if you want good, not necessarily it's going to be cheap, nor is it going to be fast. And if you want it fast, it may not be cheap. So these are the things that, when you're talking about property development and through more than development, it is a conversation of trust and establishing the parameters of, one, your affordability, because your dream, your vision may exceed the reality. So we encourage the diaspora to enter this on the 70-30 rule, where it is 70% logics and 30% emotion. And we are not in the business of breaking anybody's heart. So in concluding this little part until the Q&As, Dr. Kevin Brown, I'm saying we're going to continue to build communities under this one umbrella of what we call the positive partnerships. We have ideas here, Victoria Mutual, that is sitting right here to help you, and More Than Development to take that structure out of the land that you own or even have the permission to build on. Take your heart home. It's safe.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Corey. That's a nice message to end on. And I can see already that members of the VM group are answering questions directly in the chat room. So keep asking your questions there. And also, Corey, if you could place the contact details for Moreland Developments in the chat room, I think that would be great. Of course, Integrated Diaspora Services can also be a contact for any speaker here that you're interested in contacting as well. Okay, so let's keep moving in the interest of time. The next speaker is going to be talking about shipping and customs. Now we know that that's an important part of returning home, because a lot of us have homes in the UK fully furnished, and some of us, like my grandmother, want to take home your furniture, your car, and your other personal possessions. So we're going to hear from Beverly Johnson. She's a Jamaican. She has over 30 years experience in the maritime industry. She's the immediate past president of the Freight Forwarders Association of Jamaica and a trainer of the United Nations Trainmar program on international freight forwarding at the Caribbean Maritime Institute. Her training facilitation extends to the Management Institute for National Development, the Jamaica Customs Department, JAMPRO, and all the English-speaking Caribbean. Beverly is based also in the United Kingdom, and I have much pleasure in inviting her to take the floor. Beverly.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed, just to ensure the time. As was said, I'm Beverly. I'm here to talk about shipping and logistics and to bring some resolution to some of the problems that most returnees do encounter. First, you need to establish who exactly is a returning resident, because a number of times in my business, I see people coming to me suggesting that they're ready to go home and they want to be a returning resident, but they do not understand what the Jamaica Customs and the government of Jamaica's requirements are for them to be able to access the customs duty concession. And note I said concession, it didn't say free, the customs duties concession that are available to you. So a returning resident is really a citizen of Jamaica, whether by birth or by naturalization, having lived outside of Jamaica permanently for a minimum of 3 years, and who's over the age of 18 years old and is now ready to return home permanently. I say that because oftentimes persons believe that they can still have a home overseas and a home in Jamaica. And yes, you can, but you must provide the evidence that you're moving your present household and personal belongings to your new resident in Jamaica. So some persons, nobody's forcing you to dispose of your properties in your foreign country. You can keep that property as an investment. You can keep that property for your children. You just simply need to be able to explain to customs why that property was not sold. So the rules of the returning resident includes that of Jamaicans, as I said, over the age of 18 years old. It also covers students who have studied overseas and been away for more than 3 years. And it also includes those persons who might have been incarcerated in a foreign institution and is now released and is ready to come home and have been away for 3 years or more. It also provides for the facilitation of persons through naturalization. So you might be a Jamaican husband with a wife from a foreign country. You can naturalize that person. And for all of us who have our children who may one day want to come home, please remember that you have a dual citizen status, so you can get your Jamaican passport through naturalization, which then makes the process of coming home as a Jamaican a simple process. So the problem that we now have with persons coming home to Jamaica as returnees is that they do not understand the process of customs. The customs have a set of rules. You must be over 18, can't stress it any longer. You must be more than be away 3 years or more. Or if you're a pensioner, you must provide proof of pension. If you were working in a foreign jurisdiction, you have to show evidence that you have given up your employment in that foreign jurisdiction. You also have to provide evidence of where you're coming to live in Jamaica, as well as you must provide a shipping document, which is called a bill of lading or an airway bill, and your tax registration number. Nobody can do business with the Jamaican government without a TRN number. So if you don't have one, please ensure that you do get one. And it's a simple process to apply. It costs you nothing. So I encourage you to go into the tax office or apply for it online. Qualifying for your returning resident status, as I said, you must have lawful status in Jamaica. If you don't, you will find that you'd have shipped your goods thinking that I'm a Jamaican and you have no lawful status because you have not naturalized yourself, or you cannot prove that you're a Jamaican, even though you were born there. And I had one such case as recent as October, because you cannot find your birth certificate. You have a British passport, but you cannot show the link, or a foreign passport, but you cannot show the link to Jamaica. Or you have an incorrect name. You'd be surprised to know how many persons' names, you have one set of name in a foreign jurisdiction, another set of name when you're going home. So all those things need to be tied up so that we can accept that you are a Jamaican. Once you are approved after the pre-inspection by the Jamaica Customs Department, you are then given the eligibility for your duty-free concession for the personal items you're taking in. Now, there's a rule of thought, because some people say, I'm coming home as a returning resident, but the Jamaica Customs still charge me some customs duties. That will happen if you have excess cargo. So they give you the allowable concession of a 3-bedroom house, your tools of trade, and you can, every Jamaican can take home 1 bicycle, 1 motorbike, 1 motor car, 1 truck. All of you can take that home as a returning resident. Now, for your motor vehicles, as most people ask, You can take a motor vehicle from 0 to 10 years old if it's a car. Now, if you want to see a reduction in your customs duties, the older the vehicle you take, of course, the lesser the value, hence the lesser the duty. But the customs duties taxation levy on motor vehicles are based solely on one, the fuel type, whether it's petrol or diesel, and the CC rating of the vehicle. And it's that tariff structure that they apply. And then the value you declare based on the tariff structure, the percentage applied will determine your customs duties. That is a confusion most persons have. If you wish to take a vehicle to Jamaica, which is 6 years or older, you must own that vehicle for a period of 6 months before that vehicle can be shipped to Jamaica. If the vehicle is 0 to 6 years old, you have no problem shipping it once you have complied with the vehicle inspection and have obtained the necessary import license, you can ship. But if you went out today and bought a vehicle which is 7 years old, you have to own that vehicle, hold that vehicle in your foreign jurisdiction for 6 months before you can ship it to Jamaica. Now, persons who are traveling on a foreign document, which means you do not have a Jamaican passport, you can have that foreign passport stamped by the PICA office, which is the passport office in Kingston or Montego Bay, giving you indefinite leave to remain in Jamaica. Once you can prove by your birth certificate that in fact you are a Jamaican, but you have not gotten yet a Jamaican passport. And I want to stress the importance of all of us allowing our children to get, and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, to get our Jamaican passport, because you can be naturalized up to 3 generations. The clearance process in Jamaica for your goods, now because of COVID, is done through J-Swift. Now, it means that you can actually check your pre-clearance status to make sure you're eligible before you then go and ship and get all the surprises that people encounter when their shipments arrive Jamaica. The question I asked the minister just now is a very poignant one, because it takes just too long, as far as I'm concerned, through the Jamaica customs processing. And once your container is sitting at the port, the carrier does not care that your goods are sitting in, your documentation is sitting in the customs department, awaiting the processing. And the port does not care that your documentation is sitting in the customs department. And so these charges are adding up day by day. For that reason, with the changes that we've seen in transportation cost, I advise my customers now to consider purchasing their own container, which is a shipper's own container, whether a 20-foot or a 40-foot container, to move their goods to Jamaica. That way, they will not have these high demurrage charges, which runs into the thousands. And that is what is some of the deterrent that people are having. The J-Swift is the Jamaica's single window for trade. All of us now having to do customs clearance must use J-Swift. So the website is www.jswift.gov.jm/register. You must register on J-Swift to do business with the Jamaica Customs Department. If you're having a customs broker to clear your goods, then that customs broker will become your entity agent and you are the entity chief. Once that is set up, your forwarder can assist you in taking the clearance process. I can tell you, if you don't like the port, you don't have to go to the port. A good freight forwarder, such as a JLB Shipping, will do your complete customs clearance for you without you having to go to the ports. So I encourage persons who are looking to move their goods home, first and foremost, you must have a complete list of the items being shipped. If the items are used, please apply a reduced value for them, because customs is going to ask you to give them the value of each of your beds, each of your sofa set, each of your washing machine. If it's new, they're going to ask you for the new receipts. That value is taken up not because duties are going to be applied, but because they're needed for STATIM. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica is where the government can report how much duty-free concessions they've given to us, people of the diaspora coming home each year. So please remember to put lower values for used items. And your tools of trade, please have a detailed list of those. You're entitled to those as well coming home. Do come home. It's beautiful. Quite honestly, I've never left Jamaica. My bed is still there. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Beverly. A lot of us have never left Jamaica in our hearts, so we just need to bring that physical heart home as well. But that was very informative, Beverly. I found myself taking notes, so so I do hope that many of us also took notes, because that was very informative. Now, there's an interesting question here and very timely when you think about the situation of cars. Maureen Scott Douglas is asking, are there further discounts for electric and hybrid vehicles?
Yes, there are discounts for hybrid. Actually, the hybrid vehicles have the lowest rate of duty. They're 49%. Electric doesn't have a real low rate of duty. It's still 54% because, of course, I don't think we have enough plug-up points just yet. But hybrids are the lowest rate of duties. Another thing I want to say to persons is that a number of persons says, oh, I can't be bothered to take my cars home because of the hassle and the high rate of duties. As a returning resident, anyone who's importing a vehicle, actually, you pay 1% duty less than the auto dealers. So, and the auto dealers is going to mark up the cost of importing that vehicle to sell it back to you. So you do have cost savings. What I say to my customers, compare the vehicle you're looking to take home, have your freight forwarder calculate for you your duties and taxes, then go into the Jamaican marketplace and look at the dealership and see what price you could get the same vehicle for apples. Then you decide if you wish to buy the vehicle locally or you're going to take the pain for 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks of pain, but you will get your vehicle easily $700,000 to $1 million less.
Okay, and Beverly, I can see another question is they're asking about J-Swift. Just asking to repeat the address for J-Swift.
I will write that into the chat.
Okay, okay, so that's fine. See if there are any more questions on. Okay, so Beverly will be here for the duration of the webinar. So if you have any more questions on shipping, do put them in the chat room. We will certainly pick them up and ask them as well. There's a question here, Beverly, from Charlene Scott. Would the dual citizenship naturalization cover offspring of Jamaicans born abroad?
Yes, resoundingly.
Okay.
Grab it quickly. It's an entitlement.
Yes, so
if 3 generations.
Exactly. So if you have Jamaican heritage, you can claim your Jamaican citizenship.
And if you're married to a Jamaican, you can claim too.
There you go. There you go. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. Just trying to check if Mr. Fitzbailey is with us, because I know crime and security.
Yes, I am on.
Oh, no, that's Mr. Latouche. We're looking for Mr. Fitz.
I am on. This is Fitzbailey.
Oh, Fitz. Oh, okay. I'm coming up as Percival Latouche. That's weird. Okay. So, Mr. Bailey, I want to welcome you to the webinar. We're going to let you speak. I'm just going to quickly introduce you. And then you can also, if you are in a position to turn on your camera, you're most welcome to do so. So Fitz Bailey, he has been with, he has over 37 years of professional experience with the Jamaica Constabulary Force. He's been a police officer for life, one could argue. And he's the Deputy Commissioner of Police is his current role, and he heads the crime portfolio in the Jamaica Constabulary Force and continues to leave an indelible whoever wrote these notes for me. No, I'm going to have to curse them later. I'm trying to pronounce these words. But he's certainly made his mark on criminal investigations in Jamaica. DCP Bailey has certainly been one of the more popular faces of the Jamaica Consular Force in recent time as they try to stamp out the high levels of violent crime in the country. He's here today to speak to the topic of crime and safety for returning residents. DCP Bailey, the floor is yours. DCP Bailey, you can unmute and go ahead.
Let me say good evening or good afternoon to everyone who are actually on the platform. I know that protocol has already been established. I was given 5 minutes, so I'm going to just cut to the chase immediately in terms of what I was asked to do. I'm actually traveling, so I'm unable to actually open my video. Now, the JCF has identified 7 strategic priorities in our quest to treat with the issue of crime and violence. First of all, I must say that Jamaica has a violence problem. Whilst we have the problem of crime, but one of our major problems is violence. So in terms of what we do, the 7 strategic priorities rest on 3 pillars. And I think the commissioner continued to reinforce it: law enforcement, force transformation, and stakeholder engagements. And the 7 strategic priorities are crime reduction and control, improving public safety and security, organizational restructuring and capacity building, enhancing staff welfare, improving accountability and professional standard, enhancing efficiency through technology, and improving communication and public engagement. I know you are concerned mostly with the issue of crime control and public order issue. So what we have been doing in the JCF is that as we seek to reduce crime, we are focusing on guns, gangs, and gunmen. So what are we doing? We have arrested a significant amount of gang members. One of the largest amount is currently before the court, where 33 persons have been arrested and charged. And the trial is basically being observed by the general public. And a lot of things are being revealed out of that trial. Some of the things that we have been saying as law enforcement and generally the public were in denial, now it is coming to fore because of the trial. And so that's one. We have a number of other gang members that have been arrested and are pending trials. Just recently we had an arrest in St. Catherine South, where 10 members of a gang were charged as an organization. And there are a number of other cases that we have in train to be completed. And I think this is going to have and is having significant impacts in Jamaica. One of the things that we have also embarked on as we seek to dismantle and disrupt the gang's activity, we have also established recently a joint task force between the JCF and the JDF in terms of disrupting and suppressing violence across the nation. We're also looking at science-based investigation, and we have been focusing using communication forensics, using cyber forensics, we're using ballistics and other science in our investigation. We're also exploiting the use of technology establishment of Jamaica High. It's a work in progress. We are seeing significant, we actually seek to modernize the force, reform the force. We want to ensure that what we do will not be easily changed by successive administration. So that's one of the approaches we are using. So we focus on investigation. And just recently, for example, and in order to engage the
DCP Bailey, you're breaking up a bit. I'm not sure you were okay at the beginning, but it's
public as well. We have announced and we see are you hearing me? Am I being heard? I just trying to.
You are breaking up a bit.
Me?
We are hearing you now, DCP Bailey. So please go ahead. Hopefully it will be stable, but go ahead.
So what we are in terms of our crime reduction effort, we announced 88 wanted persons just recently, and the overwhelming support that we are getting from the public. Just before I joined, we were looking and reviewing. We announced those individuals almost the beginning of February, and we have arrested 17 of those most wanted persons. Unfortunately, if I may say, one was fatally killed, was shot and killed by the police. I'm told that we should say deceased instead of being shot and killed, but I'm very practical. He was shot and killed by the police. So there are 17, and over the period, we have arrested, in addition to those, an additional about 50 odd wanted person. So we are making an inroad. When we started the year, we realized that the murder in particular was getting away from us. We have pulled back. Currently, there's a over 15% reduction in major crimes. In terms of pulling the firearms from the street, there's a significant improvement in terms of the amount of firearms that we have recovered since the beginning of the year. We have recovered a significant amount of rifles in particular, and the Prime Minister recently announced what is called the Get the Gun campaign, which we believe is going to, create significant benefits. As well as the new legislation, the firearm legislation, that they are hoping that before the end of the first quarter, that legislation is firearm recovery and firearm charges. In terms of public safety, we have really re-energized the public safety and traffic enforcement branch, which is a piece step, and there's greater visibility on the street. We see greater police presence, and we see greater management of public space and traffic enforcement. I know that most of you are familiar with the Returning Residents Handbook, and I want to commend it to everyone because it provides significant information in terms of directory for important places, all the area crime officers, divisional crime officers, CSSB. There are contacts in residence, how you must conduct yourself in terms of being a witness or being a victim of crime. It also gives some security tips, which I consider to be very important. So I think those are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. As I said, I was given 5 minutes, so there's not much more I can say. I think my 5 minutes has been expired. But if there are any questions that you need to ask, I will stick around for a few and will be available to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey. There is a question here because I know you don't have much time to stay with us, Deputy Commissioner. There's one question here from C. Taylor. Please tell us about the role of the Jamaica SWAT team.
Well, the SWAT team is one of the units that operates from specialized operation. It's more a tactical unit that respond to what we call the extreme level of violence in our country. We use them in highly dangerous and sensitive type initiative. For example, there's a counter-compete with organized crime investigation, transnational organized crime. And when there's a high value violent in the SWAT team in terms of apprehending, and if there's a case of, for instance, of activity.
DCP Bailey, have we lost
Yes,
you?
I'm still here.
Yes, you're there. Okay. So
yes, I was saying, I don't know
if go ahead.
You heard my explanation.
Yes,
so yes. I was saying that the SWAT team basically deal with high value violence individual. And when there is high level of violence, they are deployed to suppress that level of violence. And if there's a significant target, they're also deployed.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. We also have another question here. Shanique is asking, is the Get the Gun campaign where gunmen receive money to turn guns in? And if it is the case that they receive money for the gun, is that a smart move? And what benefits are expected from this Get the Gun campaign?
You know, let me put it this way. That initiative was announced by the Office of the Prime Minister. It has been directed. So I don't really want to comment much on it. But what I'm saying, there are significant benefits to be derived from it. There might be some challenges, but there are significant benefits to be derived.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Corey Hyde. How is St. Anne's looking in terms of crime reduction since COVID?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Mr. Corey Hyde is asking, how is the parish of St. Anne's? How is it looking in terms of crime reduction since COVID?
Well, St. Anne last year had a great year in terms of there was a significant reduction. Albeit I don't have the percentage reduction, but there's a reduction, especially in all crimes in St. Anne last year. And I can attest to the fact that there's an excellent commander who is leading the charge there. Very people-oriented, very community-type policing-oriented, and he's doing a fantastic job. There's a reduction in crime in St. Anne. And it's a place that I will encourage people to live. When I retire, I want to live in St. Anne.
Well, and I'm sure you tell us where you are. You're going to live DCP, and we'll all come and live next to you. I'm sure we'll certainly feel a lot safer living next to the Deputy Commissioner for Police. The next question here we have is from Errol Bent. So Errol Bent is asking DCP, what is being done about training and development of your own officers who, according to Mr. Bent, can be confrontational with the public and each other? I guess he's just asking what is being done to improve professional standards within the JCF.
It's a
You're breaking up a bit there, DCP.
Ongoing engage different entity friends. We're saying that we are to train our men and women in customer service. That is something that we are emphasizing. And I want to say that one of the things that we are embarking on right now is ISO 9001, and that is to standardize and to create a more professional approach in what we do. So if we are going ISO 9001, then there's no doubt that one of the emphasis is the professional standard and behavior of the men and women, although we focus on systems and processes. But we are doing everything through training, through capacity building, to create that level of professionalism and a more customer-focused organization.
Okay, and because of time, this might be the final one. So Beverly Johnson, I'm going to put what she said as a question, and then I'm going to allow her to comment as well. But firstly, in the form of a question, she's asking about guns and ammunition through our ports. Can you update us on what's being done to reduce guns and ammunition being imported through ports in Jamaica?
Well,
illegally imported.
Based on our data and our intelligence, a significant of the firearms that we have, illegal firearms, do not come through our formal ports. Because of the porousness of Jamaica as an island, there are hundreds of informal ports, and a lot of the firearms are actually taken in by fisher folks, people going to, for instance, Haiti. It is difficult even with the investment of, playing with, to really identify that operate on the sea. But we have been partnering with our international partners. I have been engaged in several, formal meetings, discussions in terms of trying to create a strategy and a method to impact on the illegal importation of firearms. I don't think, whilst we may have a few that may come through our formal ports, we have had some seizure in the past, but the majority of the weapons are coming through the informal ports.
Okay. And Beverly, very briefly, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I would like to. Just to make a recommendation to DCP Fitzbailey. The Jamaican government does not mandate us in the logistics community overseas to ascertain identification or any structured form that will support your investigations. So oftentimes when you come back to the foreign jurisdiction for assistance, you come up on a brick wall. I think if the Jamaican government was to make it mandatory, like other countries do, that the transport provider must obtain proper identification, payment by credit, payment by debit, by bank cards, and signature matching identification, then if you have a fine in Jamaica, stage deliveries could be made, whilst the foreign jurisdiction of Border Patrol and the security forces could also be investigating the suppliers. But presently, anybody can walk into a shipping company and give a fictitious name. Nobody dictates that you should have a correct name or a correct identification. And that's because the Jamaican government has not mandated that this is the way, the rule of shipping.
Thanks for that input. I know we have worked with our, especially our American partners, and I know since recent time, and based on the interaction that we have had with them, that was implemented in some state, maybe not in all of the states, whereby, and I must say to this meeting that a number of the shipments that do come into Jamaica, we work with our international partners, and when the arrest cannot be made in Jamaica, we have made, especially in the US, significant amount of arrests have been made through the support from the local law enforcement for people who seek to import illegal firearms. But the point you have raised is accepted, and I'll make the appropriate recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you, Beverly, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner of Police. I was going to wrap up there, but there's one final question I'm going to squeeze in from Mr. Christopher Knight. He's asking, how is the government dealing with the high rate of deportation from the UK and United States with respect to criminality?
Well, the record that I currently have, and based on what I have access to the data, I do not see a significant amount of deportees, whilst we may have a few, engaging in criminal activity. What we find is a lot of the deportees, when they do get here, they try to go back to the country from which they came. But I think we have a proper program and way of monitoring the deportees when they arrive in the country. So I don't see deportees as any significant threat to national security at this time.
Okay, boy, Minister, sorry, Deputy Commissioner. Okay, there are two more here, but very quickly. Charlene Scott refers to a documentary that showed how deplorable the state of the prisons are in Jamaica. I know prison isn't meant to be a hotel, but I think people are concerned that the prisons in Jamaica are really way below standard. I don't know if you have a view on the prison service in Jamaica.
Well, because that's not within my remit. It's a different ministry, different department. It's not a JCF. So I really don't want to comment on that. We have no control over the prison. So I really don't want to comment on that. Maybe the junior minister, if he's here, that's best. That question fits him. So I will not comment on it at this time.
That's fine, Deputy Commissioner of Police. Corey Hyde. Corey, if your question is really, really quick, like a sentence, I can allow it. So unmute and you can ask your really, really quick question.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you. All right. We have been getting a lot of this as it relates to squatting and adverse possession. A lot of diasporans have purchased their property on DCP Bailey. And just as they purchase it, somebody just move on to the land. So the question is there a simple intervention in place or being considered by the JCF, just to run that early intervention once it is reported that there's some amount of squatting before it actually reach to the legal processes? Because I know that can be drawn out. But if there's no adverse possession and it's an early squatting, is there something in place to remove that individual and just to come to some amicable solution without it being escalated or flared?
Thank you, Corey.
Let me answer it this way. The issue of squatting is not really a police matter. If there is a dispute, the police do intervene in a dispute. And if someone is on a person's place illegally, then the person need to take it to the court, for instance, for trespassing, etc. And if there are processes to be served, the police can accompany the person to facilitate the serving of the processes, be it summons, etc. But in terms of getting the person from off the property, that's a legal matter that the court will have to give the order and the police will support the enforcement of the order.
Thank you, DCP. That's been a burning question.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Corey, for your intervention. We're gonna pull stumps there, but it's been a really interactive conversation with the Deputy Commissioner for Police, and it's not often, by the way, that we get this direct interaction with a high-ranking member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So I just want to express a special thanks to you, Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey. We really appreciate you extending the time to be here with us, because we know that your timetable at the moment is very busy, and for anyone who's watching what's happening in Jamaica, you are the main man at the moment in terms of crime reduction. So we appreciate the fact that you've spared some time to be with the diaspora, and especially those of us who are considering returning home to live in Jamaica. Thank you very much, DCP Fitz Bailey.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay. All right. So there you have it from the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So in terms of crime and safety, DCP Bailey is leading. That's his portfolio, is leading on the fight against crime. And if you're watching the news in Jamaica, you'll realize that he takes his job seriously and he's making an impact. Of course, there's lots to do with respect to improving crime in the country, but certainly he is, he's certainly trying to make changes there. Now we are pretty much at the end. I know some of you are like, wow, the webinar has gone on for a bit, but we are pretty much at the end of the webinar, and I want to just thank you all for staying with us. Thank you all for your questions. We're going to have now just a final round of sort of wash up in terms of questions that anyone has before we have the vote of thanks. And then what we're going to do after we have the vote of thanks is the tradition of Integrated Diaspora Services is that when they host a webinar, they leave open the Zoom for networking and open conversation. So we will cut the live feed that's online, but we will leave the Zoom open. There's also a poll that is coming up on your screen right now. I can see someone asking me about Mr. Latouche. Maureen, unfortunately, Mr. Latouche had some technical difficulties in joining. We really would have loved to have had Mr. Latouche because he was meant to tell you all about what it's really like to live in Jamaica. And we hope to have him on soon in another webinar. So I really have to extend my deepest apologies for the absence of Mr. Percival Latouche. Thanks for asking, by the way. So ladies and gentlemen, look at your device. You will see a poll that has popped up. 3 simple questions, no more than 3, just asking you about the poll. Sorry, just asking about the webinar, what you think. The first question is, how would you rate the overall webinar? So just tick, choose a box, and then whether you think it was poor, good, excellent, and then the second question is, which of the following services do you need help with the most? So there's a long list there of things to get you to started in terms of your priorities. So you may think you need a TRN first, or a passport, or help with property, so you can tick that as well. And then the final question is, which of the following topics are you most interested in? And again, you can tick which topic is most important to you. And once you've done that, you'll see the submit button. It will turn blue and you click submit, and we will get your feedback. It's really good for you to tell us, what you think of these webinars. We're always trying to improve the quality of what we present here. So we're going to do just a final wash up on questions to any panelist. I'll just going to quickly check if we've covered all the questions, and then we will close the webinar, formal webinar, but we will leave the line open for networking, so that if you want to exchange contact numbers, phone numbers, basically trying to replicate what are, if you were to have a webinar in person, you'd be seeing each other. You could go up to someone, ask them their name and their contact details. So we're going to try and replicate that at the end. There was a question here, and I'm just to put this out to the panel. Someone was asking, is there any tension between the locals and returning residents in the gated communities? And it's a really good question, because oftentimes the recommendation is that you should go and purchase a home in a gated community. But does anyone know of any tensions that may exist between locals and returning residents, even within these gated communities? I can see Corey and Beverly have unmiked.
Well, I'll start with myself.
Yes, go ahead.
I do own a property in a gated community, and I feel very safe there. And no, because we have a lot of familiarization sessions that go on, so people get to know people. I have had absolutely no difficulty owning my property in a gated community.
Okay, thank you very much, Beverly. Short and sweet, love that. Corey?
Dr. Brown, there's always this notion that those who live in the gated community are better off, or think they're better off than those who reside outside the gates. Recent times, maybe 3 years back, just before COVID, there have been a real kind of leveling out of that kind of perception, because what happened now is that there's more integration as we interact with individuals, how to integrate in communities. So they find that those living in the gated community, it may just be because they're there because it's an investment opportunity, because the Airbnb market is now, through the roof in Jamaica. So they now understand that once they protect that level of, or that realm of potential, they too will benefit from it. So, the tension is not so high. So Bev, you living in your gated community, you shop down at Miss Brown right down there, so you can call and your things delivered. All right, come on. When you need to eat and you order online, where the food coming from? Right? Not necessarily in the gated communities, from outside. So
actually, you'd be surprised to know that
I know, Bev.
The deliveries are coming. I mean,
okay.
When I go in, honestly, when I go in on a Friday afternoon, I really don't have to come out until Monday morning when I'm going back into my office. I mean, I can get Devon House coming to my door.
So that's a good point, though, Beverly. Are you saying?
Very serious.
Are you saying that you can have your groceries delivered to your home in Jamaica?
Yes,
absolutely,
yes,
Kevin.
Yes.
That's how it is moving on.
So how does that work?
These forums, it has been dispelled.
Because of the COVID-19, a lot of these companies were losing their shirts, and so they felt it necessary to come to the communities. And it has worked so well that even now, when things are relaxing a bit, they still offer it to you. So you go online, you order it, and it's delivered. And the Devon House ice cream people, they come and they line up on the drive, and you buy your ice cream like olden days. You really don't need to leave. And I get the gentleman coming to me with all my Carnation Market, yellow yam, green banana, sweet potato, seasoning. I don't need to go to the market.
Fantastic.
I think, Kevin, sorry, I just see Maureen Scott raised a concern in the chat, saying that, within the gated communities, what happens is that when you have persons, and I'm assuming here she means local Jamaicans who they are in a phase and they can't afford their monthly fees, then it becomes an issue, a cause for tension between them and those in the diaspora who can afford the monthly fees. And I think from our perspective, one of the things that we often say to persons when they come to get a mortgage for a gated community, in addition to the monthly payment, we often say to them, you need to add your monthly fees because you have a responsibility to ensure that you pay it. You can't just look at it, if my monthly payment is 175,000, for example, and my
maintenance
fees, your maintenance, thank you, Bev, is 25. Then I'm just paying 175 a month. No, you're paying 200,000 per month because you're paying for a look, or you're paying for a feel, you're paying for the common areas to be kept, to be insured, and you're paying for safety to some extent. So the reality is, from what I've seen, is that sometimes what happens as well is that you have persons in the diaspora who have some of these properties who they're never there. And sometimes too, the reverse is true. They don't pay the maintenance fees, but that is why you have an association. You set up the association and you ensure that it is enforced. So this is taken care of.
Yes, and I think, let me just add to that, because I've had that experience. Some of these gated communities, the maintenance fees are just over the top. It's uncalled for. It's almost like a profit center instead of an offset for expenses to defray the expense. Where I have my property, I must say it's probably one of the lowest maintenance fees still, and that's because the community took to task the management to say, show us what is it, it costs you each month for XYZ, add a percentage for your wage and your utilities and management, and then we decide on a figure. But when you leave it to the management of these properties, they can just wake up with a number and decide, for those who are, for the delinquent, the payers pay more, and it's unfortunate. I would say within my community, 85% of the occupants, owners of the properties do pay. And that's because we fought, fervently for them to show us the evidence of what it costs to maintain the pool, the jogging area. And that's another thing. I mean, I can wake up at 4 o'clock and go jogging and not worried about the fact that somebody could accost me. Everything is in one place.
And just to add to that, sorry, Leighton, it's a print and ink approach when it comes to maintenance fees. Oftentimes, you have to put that ink in the printer for it to print after purchasing that printer. What we're also looking at now, we're taking it a step further, that if a particular landowner coming on in a development plan or idea, that they have put the land up as their portion, equity portion, or investment portion, and we develop that property. It's not like they're handing over everything. They may retain what you call the maintenance area of that agreement. So they may have 10 acres, and they retain maybe one particular area of that, but they control the maintenance part. So it is negotiable now between those persons buying into that property, into that development, and the price of maintenance can be negotiated. But I hear what Beverly said, that it can be over the top, but it's also an element of development that can be negotiated, not set in stone.
All right.
I said, Nardia, not to cut this, Kevin, but Nardia, it was one of these sessions that the president of the Jamaican Real Estate Board was at, and he mentioned in terms of enforcing it, the Real Estate Board is doing something. Am I correct, Nardia?
You're looking at that.
Right.
But just to add to what everybody is saying, it's imperative, and it's part of our consultation that we explain to persons that if you want to go in a gated community, these are aspects that you must take into consideration. It's not going to be free. However, if you are, concerned about your safety and you don't want to go in a gated community and you want to go back to your community or someone on the open market, I mean, there are other solutions, security solutions that you can opt for, like Hawkeye services, for example, where you can have video cameras or those, fancy stuff that you can view your property from wherever you are in the world and monitor it and all those lovely fancy stuff. And, so if you don't want to opt for the gated community because of security purposes, you can also avail of these solutions that are available in your country to protect you.
Jennifer, your mic is on. Jennifer Dyer, can you mute your mic, please? Or someone who
the eyes on my community is my community, and this is the reassurance that I get. I have every occupant within the gated community, to my mind, in my surrounding, is my security. I have persons saying, there was somebody at your home yesterday. Were you aware that this person is coming? And I could, say back to my neighbor, yes or no. And I'm 6,000 miles away. So you build relationships. And in addition to your CCTV system, which you can, of course, as Nordia says, you can view from a distance. You can go back and check, up to, my CCTV system runs for 45 days before it records. So you have that right to go back and check what's going on your property. Let's not fool ourselves, though. Gated communities are not always secure. The perpetrators can't find access. So you tend to lose like your fruit. You'd be surprised to know how many people steal bananas. They watch the development of the fruit and it disappears. You might have a piece of machinery outside and it can disappear, because who guard the guards? That's another question you should ask. So doesn't necessarily mean persons are coming from the outside to take it, but who guard the guards?
And again, Dr. Brown, we remind persons that you have institutions like Integrated Diaspora Services on the ground. If you want assistance, we're going to look if the banana tree is still there. We will go and look at it for you, and even pick the banana and give to whoever you want to distribute to. So we are here on the ground to assist with these nuances and fears and information you need.
Okay, thank you very much. And if anyone wants to get in touch with any of the speakers, I think their contact details have been shared in the chat room, including the contact details for Integrated Diaspora Services and also JLB shipping, etc. So do contact them as well. Right. Okay. So there was another question here, Leighton Smith. Someone was asking, I think it was answered in the chat room, but I'll just put it out here in case someone missed it, about property insurance. Is that offered by the VM group?
Yeah, we are an affiliate, BCIC, British Caribbean Insurance Company. They're an affiliate of ours, of the VM group. So through BCIC, that can be done.
And is it mandatory in Jamaica to have property insurance?
Well, once your property is mortgaged, there's usually an insurance on it with any Jamaican financial institution. So once it is that you have a mortgage with us, yes, it is insured. Once you have repaid the mortgage, then your property may not be insured. And there are some persons who will choose not to do that. That's not wise, because remember, June too soon, July gone by, August is a must, and September to remember, October all over. And that's the slogan to remember the hurricane months. So because what will happen during that time period, it's important that we do have some insurance on our properties. Yes.
Thank you, Leighton.
Yes.
Just to add to that quickly for persons who might not know this, you don't have to do the search. And I'm not sure if this is a service that Integrated Diaspora Services offer, but what I do, for instance, I get an insurance broker to give me the presentation of the insurance providers, and then I decide which one I'm going to choose to provide, whether it's my health insurance, my house insurance, my content insurance, or a combination of. So just get an insurance broker and tell them, this is the value of my property, what will be the insurance, and let them go to the market for you and come back to you, and then you make a decision.
And yes, Lady Beverly, we do.
There you go.
There you go. So Integrated Diaspora Services can do that brokerage for you. I can see a message from the minister.
How can I get in touch with you?
Monica, their details are in the chat room. They've literally just posted it now. So if you go to the chat room and it's right there, I can see Percival has just posted it there. But if you're still struggling, Monica, let us know. But it's in the chat room. Just scroll up two messages up. It's there.
Or she can put her contact as well, Dr. Brown, so we can contact her directly.
Yes, she's in the chat room, so you can also direct message her if you want. I just want to quickly say that, Monica, can you mute your mic, please? I can see a message from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade saying that they're about to sign off. In terms of questions to the ministry, I think if the ministry is still there, the only question that was outstanding when the minister was speaking was one around what is the government doing around renewable energy and the promotion of solar energy.
We can take yours, baby.
Can someone in the technical team mute Monica, please?
It's 876 5788.
And someone on the technical team mute Monica Foster. Thank you. Right. So if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is still there and are happy to take the question around renewable energy, then that's the only question I think that was outstanding when the minister was presenting.
So can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kevin? Can you hear me, colleagues, friends?
Yes, Mr. Wilkes.
Yes, Mr. Wilkes.
We can hear you and we can see you, and we can see also Mrs. Brandt, Mrs. Brandt Smart as well. So thank you for joining the webinar, Mr. Wilkes. I'll just quickly introduce you, Mr. Wilkes. So Mr. Lloyd Wilkes is the director for the Diaspora Affairs Department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. He's also a former Consular General in Canada. Is it Toronto, Mr. Wilkes, or Ottawa?
Yes, Toronto.
And Mrs. Brandt Smart is the Assistant Director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. So, Mr. Wilkes, I take it you were going to answer that question around renewable energy and the promotion of solar energy usage in the country.
Yes. Well, I won't be able to provide you with a very detailed response, but suffice it to say that the government is in fact very keen on the promotion of renewable energy. for a variety of reasons, not least, of course, is the expense and the unpredictability of the movement of oil prices. So we pay a lot of money for energy out of our budget, and the government has, over a number of years now, been promoting the use of various alternative energy sources, including solar, wind, amongst others. In fact, I know for sure, when I was in Toronto, we received many requests from persons who are interested in investing in that area. Some have, and of course, we continue to receive proposals for that sort of thing. People in Jamaica also have been investing themselves in solar energy. So you'll see a lot of homes with built-in solar panels, a lot of people who live in gated communities, some of them probably produced by Moreland, amongst other developers, actually use the opportunity to put solar panels on some of those houses, as well as water heaters and so on. So it's not just the government that is promoting it, but also there are private companies who themselves are promoting the use of solar energy. So solar energy use in Jamaica and alternative energy sources is something that is quite common. And so persons in the diaspora who would be thinking about investing in solar farms or alternative energy sources, I would very much urge you to contact the ministry with responsibility for energy and indeed investigate the parameters within which you would have to operate and the sources to which you can do business, with which you can do business. If it is JPS, there are all different types of prescriptions based on legal and contractual obligations that you may have to understand to sell energy back to the grid. That currently happens now. But like I say, it's best for you to formally approach the business from an investigatory point of view, feasibility studies. I mean, do it the way you would know that business people conduct business. But the basic answer to your question is yes, the government is very keen on the sustained development of the use of alternative energy.
Right. And just to follow up there, Mr. Wilkes, for members of the diaspora who may want to take home an electric car, could you expand, sort of outline the government's plan for electric charging ports across the country?
Yes, there's a recognition not just of the desirability of having electric and or hybrid cars, but certainly of infrastructure to support that. As a policy decision, you would have heard before that electric cars and hybrid cars actually have a lower import duty. And that is a strategic position the government has taken, looking, of course, at how that would contribute to the issue of carbon and the business about the environment, which is critical and very important for our island economy. And so, yes, that is definitely something which the government also is looking at very seriously. There is a plan and a timetable for the rollout of charging ports. And I last heard Minister Vaz, I think it was, who was speaking about that issue. But I'd have to get the details of that to forward to persons who would be interested in hearing more about that. But the simple answer is yes, the government has plans, has a timetable, and will be rolling out far more charging ports than exist at the moment.
There was another question that was asked when Minister was speaking, Mr. Wilkes. There was someone raising concerns around retirement pension checks from overseas going missing at the post office. I don't know if if the ministry has had any such complaints, and is anything being done to address this problem?
I'm not personally aware of any complaints regarding missing pension checks. I know that certainly from the United Kingdom and from Canada, where we deal with pension, whether it's pension being paid one way or the other, that system has been working fairly efficiently. And for those returned residents who are now in Jamaica, I have not heard them complain about that matter. Most of these transfers we're talking about actually takes place by electronical means and not necessarily paper. For those paper-based checks or money orders, I have not personally heard of that experience. However, if that is a problem, the ministry would certainly like to be formally told. And so those complaints, if we receive them, we would certainly pursue avenues where redress can be sought or protection of those of some kind or the other can be put in place to ensure that that problem is eradicated. The last thing we need in Jamaica is for pensioners to be stripped of or somehow not have their pensions paid to them or receive their checks. So I'm pretty sure that the government would put its full weight behind that matter to investigate it fully and certainly to put in place some measure that would protect people from that sort of loss.
Okay, and very quickly, Mr. Wilkes, one last one here. I don't know if you can speak to it, but I'll ask it anyway. Someone is asking about what's being done with respect to individuals who have the unfortunate experience of property going missing from barrels that are shipped into the country.
Customs, the Jamaica Customs Agency has a complaint procedure, and they do have a procedure by which you can seek to recover, reclaim any property lost whilst you are transacting business on the ports. However, I do not have any anecdotal evidence that I can provide or even documented evidence I can provide that would support the claim that people actually go through these procedures and are paid out for their losses. Very often, and I think Beverly would be able to give you more than I could, not just based on her the place she is, but certainly her experience with shipping and perhaps the information she received from her clients. But suffice it to say that very often people find it difficult to prove what they shipped in the barrels, because the barrels, unlike containers, people are not forced to make a list of the items that are actually in the barrel beforehand. No inspection takes place at the port where it's shipping from to determine that what they claim to be in the barrel is in fact in the barrel. And so when the barrel arrives in Jamaica, similarly, they cannot produce or they're not made to produce a list, a packing list of what is in the barrel. So when they claim, make a claim that this and that or the other thing is missing, unless there's a procedural breach or breakdown, or they can see where the seal of the barrel and investigation prove that the seal of the barrel was broken outside of their presence, or some other evidential matter that can support their assertion that somebody breached the security of the barrel, then it becomes a difficult issue to prove. And I am guessing that the authorities at Customs would find it challenging to simply repay somebody by virtue of a declaration. It would have to be a matter that I am pretty sure you'd have to be able to prove that you shipped these items or somebody shipped it, and that somehow the security of the item or the barrel, the container, was breached. So I would prefer to go to Customs myself, or anybody can, and put that question to them. But I know that there is a complaints procedure, and there's a procedure that you can engage in furtherance of, your complaint that something is missing or has gone missing out of your barrel.
Okay. Let me just quickly add to that. Items shipped without cargo insurance are being shipped at the owner's risk. So that's the first instance, which is why oftentimes it's very difficult to get settlement from either Customs or the port operators. What sometimes happens is that the excitement of the receiver, the goods are checked by the Jamaica Customs Agency representative, and what the receiver should be doing at the port is packing back the items in their boxes or barrels, ensure that it is protected, then move to pay whatever customs duties or taxes that are charged. Sometime in their excitement, they leave the items on the counter to get in line, to pay quickly to get out, and then persons passing could actually remove something. What we do here is that we say to our customers, take an additional seal with you to the port, that when you have done the inspection with the customs department, your consignee is able to lock that seal. So my office in Kingston and Montego Bay, for instance, will give our consignee a seal if the consignment is a barrel, so that they can seal it. So we don't have that problem. We don't use padlocks, we use tamper-proof seals. So we really don't get customers coming back to say items are missing. The other thing too is that oftentimes the shippers intended to purchase an item, didn't get the item, but still inform the consignees that this was shipped. So when they get home and do not find the items, they are suggesting, the allegation is that it was stolen. When my customers come to me with that information, I inform them that they can go back to the port and have the ports provide them with the video, because the port is fully protected now with CCTV system, which will show that nobody went near their consignment to remove the items. But one of the things you must do is to make a disclaimer on the documentation to every customer who does not wish to take insurance protection, that the goods are shipped at their risk, and if items are misplaced, stolen, or damaged, they do so at their risk.
May I also take the opportunity? May I also, Kevin, take the opportunity to say before we wrap up that this has been a very valuable experience, this very webinar, this exchange, and I'm just hopeful that more persons will be able to have access to the exchange afterwards. Certainly use the opportunity to seek out information from the sources directly. And by that, I mean, do not be afraid to go on customs website. Even as you engage your service providers, do not hesitate to go to the Jamaica Real Estate Board, even as you have people who provide the service of real estate development. Do not hesitate to come to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Do not hesitate to go and do your research thoroughly so that you can actually fact check anybody. So if customs is telling you something which sounds contrary to what your service provider is saying, you can actually know. You can go back to your service provider or back to customs and say, how come you tell me this? My service provider has provided me with information that is contrary to what you're saying. So planning and preparation of moving home is an extremely serious undertaking. And I just want to emphasize that nostalgia is great. We can have fun going back into time. But if we do not deal with the current realities and do the proper investigation into things. In fact, if somebody is moving from London to Birmingham, even from East to West London, or from Birmingham to Manchester, they do their research. They look up the community that they are moving to. They check out where the schools are nearby, etc. and so on. And so the same type of rigor needs to be taken when considering moving to Jamaica. Take the time, do the research, come to Jamaica, visit the place. And very often it will take more than just a casual visit, because coming on holiday to Meanstess will not work, because you're on holiday and you know that. And you're going back to wherever you came from in the first place. So if you haven't engaged yourself in a lived experience, it's going to be difficult to understand the various nuances and how things have changed and how things have moved on. But I think I've said enough. I think the presentations were very engaging and provided a lot of room for people to delve into. But I just want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you, including those persons who are not necessarily on the platform, but who have taken the time out to participate. We very much are indebted to all of you for the things you continue to do, the time you continue to give to this effort. The fact is, if you were to charge us for your time, and I'm talking about the diaspora in general, we could never afford it. And so Jamaica is in your debt. We're eternally grateful for the time you give to the Jamaican cause. It is well appreciated. We may not say it enough, but I want you to know that when I say this, I know I speak on behalf of the entire government of Jamaica, all of our colleagues and friends on this side. You know, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you do and the time you give. So let me say that as my last word, unless somebody has something else to ask. But thank you very much. We appreciate what you do. And of course, we look forward to your continued interest in Jamaica. Doesn't have to be money, interest, because you're putting interest in right now, which is, I'm sure, worth way more than your weight in gold.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wicks. Really appreciate the participation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And thanks again to you and your staff within the Diaspora Affairs Department, and also to Minister Campbell as well. We look forward to our continued collaboration as we work towards deeper and more meaningful diaspora engagement. So we have come to the end, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long evening for most of us in the UK and across the globe. We're gonna see if we can close the formal program with a vote of thanks. This vote of thanks will be given by Donovan Longmore. Now, Donovan is actually in the United States, just to show the global experience that we are providing here. Donovan is the Northeast co-chair for Connecticut within the Northeast Diaspora Group, and he will be given the vote of thanks. Donovan, are you ready to go? Donovan? Is Donovan on here? I can see he's on and his mic is open. Donovan, I can see your mic is open. The floor is yours.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Brown. Got you. Just want to say thank you all for coming, for all the delegates and leaders and those who are diaspora members all throughout the world. We do appreciate you for all that you guys do, for everything all the people that in the world is seeing, and to come back home to Jamaica. We appreciate everything you do from every heart and every mind and every soul. I know you guys are worried about the situations between Russia and Ukraine, but nonetheless, let's keep our heads up. Let's pray for our nationals over there that's coming home. But again, God bless you all, and we want to continue doing these things. Thanks to IDS for the wonderful job they're doing, and they're coming back here to the United States. Yes, in Florida, Atlanta, Connecticut, New York, and all over. So we're doing so much more. And we appreciate you. May God continue to bless, always do things for Jamaica, and we're raised in. Again, God bless you all. Continue the great work, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Okay, thank you very much, Donovan, joining us all the way from the United States. As I said, this webinar, although targeted at the UK audience, is open to all the diaspora wherever you are in the world. So thank you very much for joining us, Donovan, from the Northeast of the United States. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the formal program, and we're going to close off the online streaming at this time. So technical team, we can end the formal stream, but what we will do is leave the Zoom open for those who wish to remain to talk informally, to network, to find out who is here and exchange phone numbers and all the rest of it. So this is where it's you take control. I'm going to step away as the moderator, and this is your opportunity to network and to talk about anything that you found interesting. So the formal program is finished. No more speakers to come, but some of the speakers are still online. I can see the ministry still with us.